So a big part of me did not want to do this video. Personal reasons, friendship reasons, and some business reasons. There are things in this video that I have never said publicly. And so I'm actually not sure how this video is going to go, where I'm going to end up with this video. I think I know, but I'm really not 100% positive. So what you should do, if you are part of the Red Pill community, or you have interest in the Red Pill community, or you don't like the Red Pill community, any of those things, or you're a fan of the Red Pill community, you should watch the end of this video. And if you disagree with any of my points, put them in the comments and let's have a discussion about this. Again, please try to stay rational and make rational points. Random, stupid statements, irrational statements, I ignore those, but rational points I always respond to. And we'll see how this goes. And if you didn't know, I'm Caleb Jones. This is Alpha Male 2.0. I make a multi-six-figure location-independent international income while dating multiple attractive women, and I show men like you how to do the same thing. Now, first off, before I get into this, I am proud to be a part, kind of the Red Pill community. Whether or not I like it, I didn't ask to be a part of this community, but I kind of am. I'm in the Red Pill sphere, and I'm proud to be a part of that sphere. I like the guys in the Red Pill world. I like the other gurus in this space. I like the content providers in this space. As a matter of fact, I was thinking the other day, there isn't a single Red Pill guy, I'm talking about, Red Pill guru content provider guy, who I dislike. And so if you say in the comments, hey Caleb, what do you think about so-and-so, and it's some Red Pill guy, my answer is always one of two things. Either be like, yeah, I like him, he seems like a great guy, or I don't know who that is. It's one of those two things. So I don't dislike anyone in the Red Pill world. This is very different than the pickup artist world, which is the world I came out of, where you have some gurus in the pickup artist world, unfortunately, there's like 4 or 5 of these guys, who have deep, fucked up psychological problems. They have deep mental health issues. And so even though they are very good at having sex with women, they're very good at pickup. Some of these guys have much stronger game than I do. It could run circles around me, but they're very deeply unhappy guys with some real issues. And I can't go into detail about that, but just trust me, all of us on this side of the table, the content provider side of the table, we know things about other guys because we all talk or have mutual friends. And there are things I know about pickup artist gurus and some Red Pill guys that you guys may not know. So if you ever see a guy in the pickup artist world, not Red Pill, at least not mostly Red Pill, but in the pickup artist world who's ranting and screaming about something he doesn't like, be aware you're looking at someone who probably has some deep, deep psychological problems, or drug problems, or alcohol problems, or criminal problems. I won't go into details. But anyway, the Red Pill community, my point is, the Red Pill community, in my experience, isn't like that. These are good guys who live decent lives for the most part, and they're sincere for the most part, and they're trying to help men, which I think is great. The bottom line of the Red Pill community in terms of how I view it is that I agree with the diagnosis of what they say is wrong. And whenever I see a Red Pill video, a short video, a long video, if I read a Red Pill book, if I read Red Pill articles, and they talk about what is wrong with Western society, or what is wrong with modern society, what's wrong with America, or wrong with this, or wrong with that, almost always I'm nodding my head in agreement. Yeah, that's correct. That's what's wrong. So I don't disagree with the diagnosis of what is wrong with these problems. Where we run into problems, and they're big problems, and I'll describe this in a second, is where we run into where they prescribe what to do or what to not do. So I agree with the diagnosis. I disagree with the prescription. And this is Red Pill across the board. This is Red Pill, Manosphere, Pickup Artist, MRA, MGTOW, all those groups. Generally speaking, they're good on the diagnosis, but when it comes to what to do, either what to do is not going to work, or in some cases, like the pickup artist world, will only work for a certain segment of men, like men between the age of 18 and 35 in terms of pickup artist, which I've talked about before. So I absolutely agree with the problems. Matter of fact, occasionally I will write articles at my blogs or do these YouTube videos, occasionally, talking about these problems. Matter of fact, you can click this video here where I talk about the problem of strong, independent female characters in mainstream movies and how that's a real problem when you compare today to back, let's say, in the 80s or the early 90s. You can watch that video if you want. I talk about that. And so again, I'm in complete agreement with Red Pill guys. And if you're a Red Pill guy, you'll love that video because you'll probably agree with everything I say in it. But that video doesn't talk about the prescription of what you should actually do, and that's sort of where I focus. And here's the problem, and I've mentioned this before. One of the primary problems with the Red Pill world is that, how do I say this? Actually, let me rewind something before I tell you what the problem is. A core success and happiness technique in life This goes back to the 80s and 70s with old school Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn and those guys. This is an old technique that's a baseline for success and happiness in life. And this is nothing new. And that is, when you have a problem, you only spend 20% of your time defining the problem. Just 20%. The other 80% of your time should be spent solving the problem. If you go more than 20%, if you spend 30, 40, 50, 60% of your goddamn time bitching about the problem and analyzing the problem and talking about the problem and why it's such a big problem and problem, then you're just jerking off. It's this big negative circle jerk where you're just jerking off and waxing about how horrible everything is, and you're not actually fucking fixing anything. And the challenge with the red pill community, and not every red pill guy is like this, but on the overall it's like this, is that the red pill community, for the most part, not everybody, flips that on its head. They spend 80% of their time bitching and complaining and analyzing the problem, and only 20%, if that, with some guys, on how to actually solve this problem for yourself in your life. And so unfortunately, when you get involved in a lot of red pill material, it seems to be, because it is, this big giant fucking bitch fest about how everything's wrong and everything sucks and feminists and socialists and Hillary Clinton and... Dude, okay, I got it. How many times can you do 2-hour videos or giant long articles? And I'm not talking about any one person here. I'm talking about a lot of red pill guys who, again, I like. I like these guys. Some of these guys are my friends. I like these guys. But do you really need to, in the 2020s, need to watch another hour-long, 2-hour-long YouTube video or podcast or read a big article or a book about how horrible feminists are, or about how socialists are fucking up the country, or about how we need to go back to the 1950s when everything was perfect? Do you really need more information on this? Do you really not know these things yet? Are you fucking kidding? I think we got it. I think you've got it. I think you understand the problem. I think you can now say, okay, I thoroughly understand the problem. I am now going to focus on the solution for my life. Now, that's the solution for my life. That is not the solution for society. That's a whole different topic. I've written about that in extensive detail at my blogs, how you trying to fix society isn't going to fucking work at all. Ask all the Donald Trump supporters how well that worked. That's not going to work. Focus on yourself, but that's a topic for another time. Maybe I'll do another video on that. Instead of focusing on the problem, you need to focus on actual solutions and take actions to better your life. And if you're serious about doing that, and you want to do it for kind of cheap, you can join the Alpha 2.0 Society at alpha20society.com, where you can meet other like-minded Alpha Male 2.0 guys or guys working on this lifestyle and network with them and use them as buddies and things like that. It's like $7 a month. It's super cheap. You can check that out if you want. But those are for men who actually want to solve their problems. All my programs are for men like that. The SMIC program, the Focus program, all of my books. I focus on how you can solve these sexual problems, relationship problems, and financial and business problems, instead of spending all of my time or most of my time bitching about the problems, which I agree are accurate, which I agree are real and accurate. So don't get me wrong on this. Don't think that I disagree with the red pill on what these problems are. I agree for the most part. 95%, no problem. So because the red pill is 80% focused on a problem, a lot of guys in the red pill community, the red pill world, and I roughly, this is a rough guess, I could be wrong on this, but my rough guess in terms of the red pill and the greater manosphere is approximately 60% of these men are men who are angry and want to continue to be angry. So let me explain that for a second, because there's two types of angry guys. There are guys who are angry because they like being angry. They get off on being angry, and every morning they wake up, they run to their computers, and they look up all the stuff they can be mad about. So guys in the red pill, more right-wingish guys, will look for, okay, what's the next stupid thing some feminist said? Or the next stupid thing some Democrat said that I can be really mad about? Or the left-winger said, or what have you? What did Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez say today that I can get really mad about? What did some purple-hair feminist say today that I can get really pissed? And they're excited to look for these things that make them angry. It's anger porn. That's what the shit is. Now, there's another category of angry guy, and it's more of a frustrated guy, and that's a guy who's angry about a condition in his life that he hasn't fixed yet. And once he fixes that condition, then he's happy. He doesn't want to go back and keep being angry again. That guy is the type of guy who I appeal to. That's the type of guy who I want in my audience, the Alpha Male 2.0 audience, guys who want to be happy. The problem is there's a lot of guys in the red pill world who really don't want to be happy. Some of them say they do, but they really don't. They want to be pissed off. They're unhappy and they want to be unhappy regardless of what happens. I'll give you a concrete example. Many years ago, I used to own several pickup artist forums back when that was a big deal. And so I didn't moderate these forums. You don't want me moderating forums. Other people moderated them, but I own them. And so what would happen is the mods would eventually ban some guy who was constantly bitching and moaning and bitching and moaning and bitching and moaning about some kind of problem in his dating life or other people in the pickup artist community or what have you, who'd ban this person. And then what would happen, these people would invariably go to some other forum, either a pickup artist forum or some completely different type of forum, and just start bitching about something else. These were men who were angry and wanted to continue to be angry. They liked being angry. As Joe Rogan once said, it's fun to be mad about things. And that's unfortunately what a lot of the red pill world appeals to. These guys who just are angry and want to be angry. And when you want to be angry, you're not going to take a lot of steps to improve your life, right? You're not going to actually, get down and dirty and fix your woman life, fix your relationship life, start your Alpha 2.0 business, get your income up, move out of your collapsing Western country. You're very unlikely to do these things if you're focused on being angry all day or angry a lot. It just stands to reason, right? By the way, if you don't want to be angry, you need to subscribe to this channel, click the stupid notification bell, like this video, and leave a comment. Even if you disagree with what I'm saying, that's fine. The more interactivity and traffic I get in this content, the more of this content I will provide. So if you like this content, do those things and get it done. Now, that leads me into the next problem of the red pill. And this is a big one, and it's a challenge. So first, they spend 80% of their time bitching about the problem, okay? Then the latter 20%, they do talk about some solutions. But here's the challenge with that. I will use a political example. I don't like talking about politics. I think it's useless to talk about politics. The United States is collapsing and going down. You can't fix it. You can't solve it. Same thing with Europe. Same thing with Canada. You can't fix these problems. You just have to either put up with it or protect yourself or leave. I chose to leave. You could choose to do whatever you want. But that being said, let me explain to you when I first realized when left-wingers were insane. This is when I first started to figure this out. Back in the early 90s, I was a very young man. I was right out of high school. I was probably 20, 21 years old, maybe 19. And this was during the first Gulf War under George H.W. Bush around 1991. And for those of you who are my age or older, you remember that as soon as that war began, the people on the left wing flooded all of the cities of the United States and protest. There was millions of people out protesting. Strange they didn't protest at all when Bill Clinton was killing thousands of people in Kosovo. It was only when George Bush, a Republican, did it. Right there, that tells you there's a problem. But that happened later. But anyway, what would happen is I noticed that on the news, like CNN, this is before Fox News, CNN and other big news channels would go down and interview the protesters. And this is a scenario I saw several times when I was a kid watching this on TV. The news reporter would walk up with a microphone to some protesters, and he would ask questions and get their opinions. And the question would invariably come up, okay, you don't want us to invade Iraq or bomb Iraq. Okay, great. What would you do? And the left-wing protesters said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, what would you do? So Saddam Hussein has invaded a sovereign state, the country of Kuwait, and XYZ, and all these different problems. What would you do? If you're not going to invade, what would you do? And they say, well, I wouldn't invade it. I wouldn't invade the country. And the guy would say, yes, I got that. I know what you wouldn't do. What would you do? Well, I wouldn't bomb a bunch of people and kill a bunch of kids. I wouldn't do that. And the reporter would say, I got that. I understand what you wouldn't do. What would you do? And the protester would say, well, I wouldn't spend trillions of dollars on this useless illegal war. It was all about what he wouldn't do. And I saw this scenario play out several times way back then. And that's when I started to realize, God, these left-wingers are kind of insane. They're stupid. They know what they don't want, but they have no idea what they want. So that tells me they're not thinking clearly, they're not thinking rationally, they're just thinking emotionally. And that's when I started to realize that left-wingers maybe weren't the best people you wanted running your country. That's when I started to realize this in my early youth. The problem, and I have mentioned this before, that since the right, and there is no right wing in the United States anymore, literally, but since the former right lost the culture war somewhere around 2010, and they lost their minds, they have become like the left. And when you ask hardcore right-wingers, well, what would you do? They say, well, I wouldn't have a bunch of feminists. Well, I wouldn't have a bunch of... It's all about what they wouldn't do. Years ago, and you can still see this on my blogs, calebjones.com/blog, I wrote a 10-article series on how I would design a country if I started a country from scratch. I talked about the Constitution, I talked about welfare spending, I talked about foreign policy, I talked about military, I talked about monetary policy, I went through the entire thing. Hardcore right-wing guys like, Milo Yiannopoulos would not be able to do that. They would just be able to tell you what they wouldn't do. They couldn't tell you what they would do. And the challenge with a lot of red pill guys is when they finally get into that 20% zone where their own audience says, okay, I got it, feminists bad and thoughts are bad and single mothers are bad. Okay, I got it. What do I do? What do I do with my life? The answer usually is, and you'll see this in comments and forums all across the red pill, the advice you'll get from these red pill guys is, well, don't date any feminists. Don't date a socialist. Don't date a woman who takes her phone and puts it face down on the table. Don't do this and don't do that and don't do this. And these guys will say, okay, I got it. I got what not to do. What should I do? And a lot of red pill guys, unfortunately, are very uncomfortable with that question because they don't know. They don't know what to do. They know what not to do. They know what they fantasize about doing, but they don't know actually what to do. And this is not just red pill. This is the entire manosphere. This is manosphere guys, MGTOW guys, pickup artist guys. They know what not to do. It's really difficult when you ask them what to do. They don't really know. So they default to what not to do. And they have a list of 14 things they shouldn't do. By the way, most of those things I agree with. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them I agree with. But again, if you ask these guys what to do, they don't really give you a solid answer. If you press them for an answer, don't tell me what I shouldn't do. I got it. I've read all your articles. I've watched all your YouTube videos. I've read your book, blah, 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 blah. Mr. Red Pill Guru, I understand. What should I do? The advice that they give, and this is not literally their advice, but this is more or less what their advice boils down to when you narrow these guys down on what to do. And again, this is not literally what they say, but it's kind of what they say, or this is a variation of what they say, or what they say is a variation of this. Their advice and what to do generally boils down to something that looks like this. Get monogamous with a really young girl who is still a virgin and vote for Republicans. That's basically it. Oh, and be alpha. When you marry her or get monogamous with her, be alpha. That's about it. Now, I'm not saying they literally say exactly that, but when you put them against a wall and they have to give you some advice, it's some variation of this. It's get monogamous because polyamory is for betas. It's get a really young girl who hasn't fucked too many guys yet. Get a virgin if you can. Good luck. Get into a serious relationship with her. Good luck on that lasting, especially if she's young. And vote for Republicans to fight against these left-wingers and these socialists and these liberals who are destroying our nation. If you are familiar with my content, you already know how stupid that is, what horrible advice that is. Republicans are just as bad as left-wingers in terms of size of government. Donald Trump jacked up the size of government by trillions upon trillions upon trillions and trillions of dollars pre-cerveza sickness. This is absolutely ridiculous. None of this advice works in the modern era. Now, that advice is okay if this was 1953. If this was 1953, marry a young girl who's a virgin and vote for Republicans would be good advice. I would actually support that advice. Or if not marry, get into a monogamous relationship with. Because a lot of red pill guys say don't ever get married. But a lot of them do say get married. Just make sure you marry, a virgin who's 18 or something. And then she'll suck your dick forever and she'll never break up with you and she'll never divorce you. She'll never cheat on you. Factually and objectively incorrect. I've shown you the divorce statistics. I've shown you how bad the divorce statistics are when you marry someone really young. If you get into a serious monogamous relationship with someone who's very young, it's just a matter of time before she breaks up with you or you get a divorce or she fucks someone else. I've been through those numbers ad nauseum. You know what I'm talking about if you're familiar with my content. Go to my blog, look at all the data. That advice of get serious or monogamous with a really young girl who's a virgin and be alpha and vote for Republicans works in some kind of right-wing fantasy world. It doesn't work in the real world. And you'll notice that's almost the opposite of my advice. My advice is you don't get a girlfriend until you're at least 30. You don't move in with a woman until you're at least 35. When you move in with a woman, you don't get legally married. If you have to sign some kind of legal paperwork, you get an OLTR marriage where it's open, you can fuck other women whenever you want, and your finances are 100% protected. That's the kind of marriage I have. It's fucking great. That's my advice. Oh, and also have a location-independent alpha male 2.0 business so you can go anywhere you want. You're mobile. If something bad happens to your country, you can just leave and the money keeps going in. Don't pursue a job. Don't go to college. Don't do any of that stupid stuff. These are systems that don't work anymore. Going to college is not a system that works anymore. It worked great in 1962. It doesn't work anymore. Monogamy worked fine, I guess, in the 1950s. It doesn't work anymore. And so when you have red pill guys recommending these things, you have to realize they're recommending advice that doesn't work anymore. This is advice that is 70 years out of date. Now, do I like the fact that monogamy doesn't work? No, it is bad for society. That's where the right-wingers are kind of right. It is a problem for society. I don't like that. Do I like the fact that Republicans are basically now another version of left-wingers? No, I hate it. That's one of the many reasons I had to leave the United States forever. No, I don't like these things, but I acknowledge these things as facts. And I factor these things into the advice that I give you guys to improve your lives. I don't give you a bunch of fantasy bullshit about if you marry a girl who's 23 who's only fucked 2 guys, then you'll stay married forever because she's a Christian and her parents are still married, or whatever the fuck excuse you're gonna hear from some red pill guys. And again, some red pill guys say never get married. Great, that's where we agree. Wonderful. Now, am I exaggerating? Yes, slightly. It's not like every red pill guy in the world says, just you get monogamous with a young girl and vote for Republicans. There's some good red pill stuff in terms of lifting weights, doing TRT, becoming a higher value man, working on your SMV. But frankly, to be honest, getting bigger muscles so women will like you is advice men have been telling other men for 70 years. Men were saying that back in the 1950s. That's where the word He-Man came from, not the 1980s cartoon, but before that, in the 1950s. You know, I'm gonna eat a steak because that's what a He-Man does, and do push-ups and get big muscles, and then the ladies will like you. That's really old advice. That's not very revolutionary. Yes, you should lift weights. Yes, I've said many times, for Alpha Male 2.0, if you're over the age of 35, regular resistance training is a mandatory requirement. Every 4 days, I don't lift weights at the moment because of fucking cerveza sickness. Whenever I travel, the gyms are all closed, or you gotta sign a thing, or there's a line, so it's a pain in my ass. So I've switched to a convict conditioning regimen where I do a lot of body weight exercises all through my apartment. Maybe I'll do a video on that. But I do resistance training every 4 days. I do my entire body. It takes me about an hour. So yes, you need regular resistance training. So obviously I agree. I'm saying that that's basic stuff you should be doing anyway. That shouldn't be very revolutionary. Of course you should look better. Of course you should make money for your own happiness and things like that. I've talked about that in prior videos. The bottom line here is that you have to focus on yourself. And focusing on yourself means you are taking actions to solve the problems in your life. If you're not getting laid, there are things you can do to get laid. I can help you, and if you don't like my content, there are lots of other content out there in the manosphere world that focuses on action and specific techniques and specific steps to improve your dating life and to improve your business life and all that stuff. We talk about all of that at Alpha Male 2.0. But that's where your focus should be. Your focus should not be bitching and moaning and whining and commiserating with all your red pill buddies about how terrible everything is and how worse everything is, and look at all these stupid woke people, and look at these stupid feminists, and look at this dumb woman who's 38 years old and thinks she can get a male 10. And how many fucking times do you have to rewatch that information over and over and over? And I think you got it. I think it's time for you to start taking action on your life. And if you need information, you take in the information that only will help you physically in your life. When I read books today, I read a lot of books, but the only books I will read are books that directly relate to projects I'm working on right now. I'm not going to read some random book about how horrible everything is. I got it. I understand. I want to fix my life. Now, my life is already fixed. But a lot of you have a lot of fixing to do. And you're never going to get there if you spend your time, woe is me, about how horrible everything is in Western society and SJWs and boy, we need to re-elect Trump. And this shit is not going to work. I've said it 1,000 times. I'll say it 1,000 more. Focusing on external solutions is not going to solve your problem. Focusing on how bad everything is certainly won't solve your problem. You need to solve your problem. Matter of fact, a great video to get started with that is this video right here, where I talk about stop thinking and start doing. That's what a lot of you red pill guys need to start doing. Stop thinking and get to work. I'll see you in the next video.